Hello, hello, and welcome. Today, I want to dive in to this tea dating app conversation that is being had all across the internet right now. My understanding is that this dating app is being created out of a very popular Facebook group called Are We Dating the Same Guy? And this is a Facebook group that is obviously exclusive to women, and women can go into this group and ask questions about any man that they're dating, or even post about a man that they've dated if there have been some major red flags. So now there is a dating app, and women are rushing to sign up to this app because, in a very sort of casual sense, if you are out on a date with someone, even if you met them in person, you would be able to type in their name, their information, and then you would see whether they have green flags or red flags. And I believe what maybe the story is behind each one of those flags. So, of course, the masculine is really upset about this. Men are very upset because, in their mind, in the story that's been told to them, and in some cases, some experiences that they've had dating probably some very unstable, toxic women, they feel that this is only a site to just gossip and bash men and make up stories about them and create these like hyperbolic red flag events, and that every man is just going to be admitted into this app and no woman is ever going to want to date him because he's on this app and all of these lies and false stories are being told about him. From my perspective and my reality, yes, anything is possible. There's always going to be a percentage of people that are really dark, really toxic, moving from a very intense, dysregulated nervous system, overly emotional, vengeful. All of this is absolutely true. And I want to talk about another truth today, which is what I have seen over the past 5 years of living in a community that is a very transient community, meaning it's very touristic. So there's a lot of people that come and there's a lot of people that go. Because what I've seen in the context of, let's just say, dating, and we'll leave the space holder bit out of it. We'll leave the facilitation to the side for now. What I've seen in the world of dating, when a woman comes online to say, hey, I had this experience, this is my experience, this is who he is, these are the red flags. These are not light situations. These are not situations where it's just something petty, right? And I understand that, like, if you're in the world of online dating, you are dealing with online dating app consciousness. Like, that is what you are dealing with. And we need to understand what that is. If you are living in a world where you are rating a woman or rating a man from 1 to 10, and you're saying, well, what are you? Are you a 7? Oh, she was a 4. He's a 2. You're an 8 at best. You know, this kind of stuff it's a certain level of consciousness that one can only achieve through online dating. It is not the reality of true connection, of actually connecting with a human being in real life. And you guys need to understand that. And we need to start pointing that out to people because it's a very low vibrational consciousness. The WhatsApp group that I am a part of, in general, when a woman comes forward to share about an experience, it is something that across the boards she has really been contemplating around bringing it forward. This is a type of woman who is going through some process around what it is that she's experienced and whether or not it would benefit the community to give a warning sign. A lot of times, there are other women that have had similar experiences with the same man. There have been times where a woman will come to me firsthand and share about a horrific experience that they've had. And then I see other women talk about the same guy on that WhatsApp thread. So there are these cases where there are these men that are constantly getting away with treating women not very well by any means. And they don't get caught in this environment because this environment is very transitory, meaning that if you're coming here as a tourist, you're only allowed to stay a couple of months in general. So if you're only allowed to stay here for a couple of months and you're involved with someone, right, that's what, 8 weeks tops, and then that person is gone. And then you get to just repeat your pattern again and again and again. And this is the trouble with not just dating on this island, but also facilitation and the boundaries that can get crossed in any of those experiences. There's very little accountability, and there are extreme defamation laws. So you have to be very mindful about how you share this information. A lot of women won't share their stories until they have left Thailand as well. They might even feel like, I'm never going back, so now I'm okay to share my story. I've also seen, in many cases, other women responding to a woman's lack of boundaries, inability to communicate properly, moving from a dysregulated nervous system, not from the perspective that she deserved any of the violation that she received, but out of a very tough, sisterly sense of awareness. Like, we need to also be aware about what we are creating and what we are stepping into. From a facilitating perspective, a woman shared that she went in for a healing session and she was given something to drink. And after the fact, she realized that there was drugs in this drink. There was something in this cocktail. And it left her completely dysregulated, disassociated, feelings of being very clearly crossing of boundaries, all of the above. A few weeks later, a friend of mine went to the same healer, came to me and said he tried to give me this tea, and I asked him what's in the tea, and he said something like ketamine, LSD, and MDMA. And she said, no way am I going to drink this tea. Like, this is a woman who's come out of, a past incarnation of doing a lot of those chemicals, and she is past it. She doesn't want anything like that in her system. But she's still looking to heal other aspects of self. And she was told that going to this practitioner and what he does is very powerful. So she wanted to try the modality, but she outright refused to drink this little cocktail. And at the end of the day, he wouldn't have told her what was in the cocktail if she hadn't have asked. So you see a bit of this. If a woman is coming forward and she's saying, I had, this guy gave me this thing and I drank it, there's also the voice of, but why aren't you asking, right? And why aren't you like taking care of yourself in that way? It doesn't mean that you deserve it. It doesn't mean that you asked for that to happen to you. But we have to be smarter. We have to understand what it is that we're stepping into and not be so naive to just accept, that this is what we should be doing. We can't be so naive to trust every practitioner in the space. We can't be so naive to just outright blindly trust that every person that we meet is telling us the truth of any situation. We need to give it time so that we can see things more clearly. which of course always for me comes back to, are you meditating? Are you actually working with your subtle body system so that you can see things from a much clearer perspective? You can start to see things and you can back away when you are sensing the red flag, when you are feeling into that situation. Otherwise, if we're just naive and we're blind, we are operating from a much more emotional level. We don't see things as clearly, as cleanly. And then also, we are expressing from that place as well. So everyone has a certain level of responsibility in whatever space it is that we're stepping into, self responsibility. And the more that we can self study through self practice, the more awareness we're going to have in, again, any of these types of situations, a healing situation, a dating situation, work, family, career, all of it. So what do we do with the information when we see it? What is the reality of that? It depends on obviously what the accusations are, what is the experience that this woman had, as well. Do we even feel that it's true? And this is something that, again, it comes back to consciousness, dating app consciousness. This level of if someone just says something about anyone, that everyone is just going to believe it. And I know that probably for the majority of the planet, you're much more leaning towards, somebody says anything online and then you're canceled and, this whole thing happens. That is not my reality, and that is not the reality that I choose to live in. There was a woman here that posted on very public groups about someone in the community, and she created, her whole story around this, and she had her truth in what had happened. But I also knew this woman. I didn't know her personally deeply as a friend, but I had encountered her and I had encountered her energy. And I had also seen her go from praising this practitioner that she had been working with, praising him, always saying his name whenever anybody was asking for this certain type of facilitation. She would always be honoring him. And the type of experience that they were involved in was was a type of modality where there was a lot of intimacy involved. Intimacy that required very clear boundaries. And this experience, I've known women that have worked with this facilitator, and they often, quote unquote, catch feelings for the facilitator because it's very intimate, it's very sensual what they're doing. And apparently, on the one hand, some people find it very healing. On the other hand, some people find it to just be very kind of erotic, pleasurable experience. Nevertheless, this woman was working, I think she said for like 6 to 9 months with this same facilitator. And she went from praising him to then, creating this whole expose on him as well. She created like a fake Facebook profile and then went to like the very public groups to try to bash him and to basically take him down. As a spectator, as someone on the outside watching the whole experience unfold and having my own kind of interactions with this person to just kind of tap into their energy field a little bit, I knew that she was hurt because she didn't get what she wanted. And this is a whole other topic. This is what you see all the time when you have people coming out against their spiritual teacher, their spiritual masters. It's generally someone who's working very close with the teacher, with the lead practitioner, and they've put themselves in this position to, whatever it is, invest money into the programs or invest a lot of time and a lot of service. And what they really want is they want love and they want companionship and they want to like be the one. And then at the end of the day, you're not the one. And I can't imagine feeling that, like being in her position where you're in some type of modality where it's very sensual, sexual healing, very intimate type of thing. Like I know what that modality is and I do not go near it because you can have a boundary, but it's also going to be boundaryless. Like women are going to feel things, women are going to project. Doesn't matter how strong that man is holding that space and holding his boundary. If it's sexual, there's going to be a certain level of energetic and emotional attachment to that person. And that's what I saw in that woman. The practitioner, the facilitator, he came forward. He said, anyone can come and talk to me. This is what I've been doing. This is what happened from my perspective in the scenario. And anyone is welcome to come and have a conversation with me, or you can message me, like I'm fine with it. And I actually reached out to him and we had this conversation, and it was very clear that this is a part of what happened. Now, did he hold himself at the most highest level? I don't know. As a spiritual facilitator, you're also human. So you could be letting in something that is kind of blinding your awareness. And there's definitely things that could put you at fault to some degree. But there was also a really big story that was happening that was just a story that was about a woman who wanted a man. And at the end of the day, she didn't get him. She got deeply rejected. And so she went in for the kill. And this is what men are really upset about, whether or not they're warranted to be upset, because when you read some of these comments or you look at some of the YouTube videos, you're kind of like, I don't know if this person is like really out there in the dating world, like really connecting with women and like experiencing a lot of this. And I think that in the world of like the internet and the media, we kind of get sucked into these like umbrella cloud ideas that like, oh, everything is just this way because that's what everyone is saying versus what is your actual experience, right? Because a few people have these experiences and then everyone kind of gets shadowed into this idea that like, yeah, every woman is just going to go on this app and we have so much time in the world to just go on and to just start talking about all of these men and bashing them because that's really what we're about. We just want to take men down and yada, yada, yada. And again, like I said in the beginning, there might be a very small percentage where that is the case. And also, this, again, is this dating app consciousness, this like dating app mentality, this rating people from 1 to 10 and what do you bring to the table and what's your value? Are you a high value, low value? Like whatever that is just garbage. Because at the end of the day, when you are really there in connection with another human, you can figure it out. You can make your own decision, even as a woman dating someone who maybe made some mistakes in his past. If you have done good to correct yourself, meaning you've done some of the work to go within and to correct your bad behavior. I dated a man who, once we were a few weeks into the relationship, had shared with me that he was in a relationship with a woman here on this island and he had hit her. And I knew that this for him was humiliating, humbling. It definitely put him in a space where, he's on a spiritual path and he made a very big no, right? Like bad, like hitting bad. And he did that. And now he had to live in the repercussions of what that meant. Even though he's not an abuser, right? He's not someone that goes out and he's like hitting women left and right. And no, he was pushed to some type of edge in that moment, and it happened. It's not an excuse. And yeah, he needs to do the work and deal with the repercussions of that. As a woman that was dating him, like, yes, it was very helpful for me to have this information. And also, it wasn't something that made me run in the other direction, right? It wasn't something that was anything where I felt that this was a pattern, that this is something that he did in relationships with women. And when I went to my little WhatsApp group and got on and just searched his name, there was only good things that ever came up from anyone that ever had some type of seeing him as a facilitator or going on a date with him. And that's also how I felt with him. He was very mature, he was very kind, he was very honoring of my boundaries. And to be honest, he was in his SHIT of like coming out of something that he did that was wrong. You know, like that was wrong. No, like don't hit woman, no, like you don't do that. And it's not to say that he wasn't provoked or pushed to an edge or this woman didn't like do all that she could to like get that rise out of him. But I think as a humanity, we understand that that's something that we don't embrace. We don't do that. And he understood it deep within his masculine, that that's not the type of man that he wants to be. So he needed to do the work to then correct that. And me, as a woman coming into a time and space in his life where he was ready to step forward and date again, he knew that he would have to share that information with me. And I was able to receive it and not just bolt and run away, because I could see and sense that there was something more there. There was something more to the story than just you hit women. And that's it. That's all you'll ever amount to, is that you hit women. Because that wasn't what happened, right? And I could feel that. And why I want to impress that upon you is that if you get out of the dating app consciousness mentality, you're going to start to connect with women, hopefully women that are meditators, like true meditators, like not just taking a yoga class because you want a nice body and you're keeping everything very surface, but you want to start to try to align with the women that are going a little bit deeper into things, right? That are going a little bit deeper than the face value, than the market value that is so projected in this dating app consciousness type of scene or type of ethos. You want to be able to be with a man and a woman, right? I want to be with a man who has some compassion, who actually has some compassion and can hold me in my history of like not doing things in the best way because I'm a human and I'm growing, and of course I'm making mistakes along the way. Now, the level of the mistake, and if the mistake is being repeated, as in some type of assault is happening, I've seen those stories and I've heard them face to face, women who have dated certain men here, and then you see the same story being shared by women in this group. That is enough for me to keep that man at an arm's length. And that is also enough for me that if I have a friend that's going to go out on a date with this guy, I'm probably going to say, hey, there's a track record here of really shady things that this guy is doing. You should be aware of that. And it's very interesting because this conscious community here, like the women on this island, the men on this island, there's a certain level of depth and understanding that I can make my own decision. I can take all of that information, I can read all of those stories, and I can still decide for myself if I want to get close to this person. And that is on me. The information is there. And then you find out, right, whether or not it's true, or a half truth or not true at all. And that's up to us as adults to decide if we want to do that. And this is the thing too, with the dating app consciousness, and like these men are so worried that these women are out there bashing them. At the end of the day, if I am truly connecting with you, we have a very authentic connection, and there does feel that there is some type of spark or meaning within our connection. Even if I hear these red flags in these stories, I'm probably going to go on another date with you, and I'm going to see if the red flags are actually true. All that this is going to do, it's going to slow me down, right? It's just going to slow me down. If I am finding out, or I read something and it says that this guy is like a total narcissist, and he's a narcissist, and he's a narcissist, I don't know that that's enough if I have an honest connection with you to stop me in my tracks. You know, I don't know that that's enough. And you also have to take into account that like women love a bad boy, right? So if all of these other women are saying certain things, it might not completely turn every woman off. And especially if you're meeting spontaneously and you are connecting, there's going to be still some curiosity and some what if type of energy. The only thing that it's probably going to do is just create a slower pace. And there's probably going to be a little more work that you have to do to get what it is that you want. Because if I think all you're after is to like get me in bed and that's all you want, and once that happens, you're going to leave, I'm probably going to be pretty slow to fulfill that. Or I'm going to readjust my frequency around what it is that I want, and we're going to enjoy our like one night stand, our little romance, and I'm not going to have a lot of attachment, and I'm not going to be sucked into, you know, whatever the emotional situation might have been for other women, where maybe they wanted more and you gave them less. And right, I'm going to understand that like you don't really want a relationship, you just kind of want a hot thing, and I can decide for myself if I want that or if I don't. And that's really how that is going to play out. But that comes down to you, my dear man friend out there in the world, actually presenting yourself to these women, getting off of the app, approaching women in public places, connecting with them, having conversations, revealing yourself, being somewhat vulnerable, taking the risk. And let me tell you, we women are very open for this. You know, we're very open for men to come and talk to us in person, to ask us out on a date, to take us out, have a conversation, let's see how it goes. So if you're sitting there behind your computer screen and you're upset about this app because you think all of these stories are going to come out about you, get off the apps. Get off the apps and get into reality. And if she goes to this app and she sees that there's like all of this stuff that's written about you, if she is a little bit deeper, right? Meaning you're not just coming after her for only her looks. Obviously, attraction is attraction. It's what brings us into the fold. Give it a little time, right? See who she is. And if there's a real connection and you know, maybe there's a small percentage. I mean, I would imagine, okay, let's be real. If you've got 20 women all saying something kind of nasty about you, as a woman, I'm going to think there's probably some truth there because you are the common denominator in all of that. If it's like a restaurant review, you know, we can pick up on that. We can pick up on the type of woman that is just upset because she's been ghosted. She's just upset because she didn't actually get what she wanted. You know, you can pick up on, well, it was just kind of a bad date. It didn't really go well. Those things can be forgiven. Those types of things are like, okay, well, let me see how this is going to go. But if I'm looking and I see that there's like 10, 20, 30, like whatever, you have this history of people saying really bad things about you, you're probably doing something not great. And what it really is telling us, and why we might not want to engage with you, is that you yourself are caught in this dating app consciousness. You're not really doing the work. You're not really doing the work to learn how to communicate. You're not doing the work to really go in and heal your own stuff. And we all have stuff that we need to heal, right? So doing some work to raise your vibration, raise your consciousness. What we're seeing is that you have, a pattern of not treating women very well. And maybe this app and maybe these types of groups, whether or not you're on the app, maybe this type of group is like actually holding you to a certain level of accountability. As well, you should have these groups that talk about women, and you should have these apps for men that also expose women. Like, I don't have an issue with that. Well, I wouldn't have an issue with any man that I've dated going online and saying, and is he going to make up stuff about me? Is he going to lie about my body count and these kinds of ridiculous things? Like, maybe. And like at the end of the day, I think I'll probably have some success meeting someone that doesn't give a crap about any of that, that would see for themselves who I actually am, that would spend enough time with me to feel into my heart and my mind and understand who I actually am versus just this idea of who I am online. In so many ways, I'm grateful to be in such a concentrated spiritual community where there are different types of practices, traditions, lineages, whatever it is. But ultimately, it's very centric to people who are trying to figure out their stuff. They have access to a lot of really beautiful ways to mirror their inner world, to mirror your failures or your faults, the part of you that falls short in certain areas. It's a little bit more challenging here to run from that. As well, there's a certain level of embracing people who have done things in the past and are working to evolve. And I think there are definitely some people who just doesn't seem to be evolving. They're definitely caught in their same patterns. And that's where, you learn about that and you kind of keep them, that situation, you keep them at an arm's distance of how you choose to engage with them, if ever. But I think it brings to light a deeper conversation, which is, are you prepared to allow someone to evolve? Even in the case of this person that I dated that had hit this woman, is that woman prepared to allow him his healing? Or is she over there just always saying he hit me, he hit me, he hit me? And I don't know. I don't know what her story is. But when I was with him and we had a very beautiful short dating relationship, I could see, I was like, you're ready to take your power back. You've put yourself in this deep state of humility and going through your atonement, basically. But what happens when the person atones? What happens for the rest of us? And obviously, there are layers to this. But in this context, somebody who obviously isn't on the spectrum of being a repeated person who hurts in that way. I'm just trying to be mindful of YouTube stuff here. He's not a repeat offender. Let's say it like that. He's not somebody who's repeating this offense again and again and again. This is something that happened, something that deeply woke him up to a certain degree. Is that woman, are other people in the community able to embrace his transformation out of that? And that is very difficult. That's very difficult for women to do in particular. It's very difficult for women to move out of the pain that has been caused to them, the harm that has been done to them. So it is a very complex, much deeper conversation to be had, but that is also part of the equation of transforming the heart of humanity and really awakening the heart of humanity, is being able to hold people in their lowest point. And, you don't necessarily have to be involved in awakening them or helping them or anything. That is not anyone's responsibility, especially somebody who has been offended, right? Harmed by another person. But when you look at like the justice system, putting people in jail, it's supposed to be a rehabilitation. But people aren't really rehabilitated. They're just put into this place where it's super dark, destructive, like, and for some, you just want them to go to that type of place. You want them to go to hell, right? And experience that because of the things that they did. And then there are lighter offenses where can they be actually rehabilitated? Can they go through a process of atonement to then come out and like actually have a life worth living? My own family, my kind of origin story is of man and woman that were very young and very, I would say, irresponsible, having children, kind of being these lowbrow hippies doing drugs and whatnot, totally destructive energy. Divorce happens. And what I've seen with my mother and with my father is that my father went into a path of forgiveness, self-forgiveness, atonement, and really doing his work on the path to just move beyond his own mistakes. And then there is my mother who has always held him in those mistakes, and she's held on to her bitterness and she's held on to her anger. And I will tell you, ladies, if you are watching this, there is nothing that is going to age you more quickly than your own bitterness and your own anger towards a man. Take a breath. Take a breath. And it's not to say that you need to love him or you need to be in a friendship with him or you need to respect him or anything, but to do your own work around that situation. And the same for men in their relationship to their mothers. If a man doesn't have a good relationship with his mom, and he hasn't done the work to really heal whatever that is, because you don't need to have a relationship with any of your family members. There can be some toxic stuff there where it just doesn't work in this lifetime. And you can still do the work to heal that. So you're not holding on to this rage, right? This secret rage towards mama. And when you meet a man that has that rage, like you understand that he's treating every woman from that place of rage. That is in every experience that he has with a woman. He is just going to eat her up and spit her out because he's mad at mama. Like that's what it comes down to. So we all have our work to do in many different areas, but this work of like coming into a place where we can be a bit more at peace within ourselves, have appropriate boundaries, have some compassion, and let people go on the journey that they need to go on in most cases. I don't date a lot, but when I do date, it's because somebody has come up and asked me to go for a cup of coffee or to just connect in that moment if we're in some, type of setting where that makes sense. I've met a lot of really incredible men, beautiful people as well. There have been, in a lot of cases, a lack of alignment and a lack of connection, but I really appreciate the nerve, the gumption for someone to come up and to ask me for my number and to have a conversation with me. And I can usually weed out pretty quickly if they are just interested in a more physical experience versus something with a little more depth. And I trust that over time, the alignment will be there. And I've mentioned this about relationships before, where relationships are to some degree transitory. If what you want is a marriage and a family and this very kind of traditional thing, I think that might be very difficult to find through a dating app, but not impossible. You have to do your work to find the alignment. Like it's all about alignment. I've dated men that on paper, they check all of the boxes. And at the same time, there isn't this sense of connection where I feel like our inner worlds are really speaking to one another. And again, that might not be a prerequisite for other women. It's just how I feel and what I'm working through. And so if I'm not dating, I am concentrating on my creativity. I'm concentrating on my practices. I'm concentrating on what it is that I am creating in this world. I don't ever feel like I need someone to fulfill a certain part of myself. And that might be very unique to my own pattern and my own way of being. I love companionship and I love connecting with someone that I have that true connection with and that alignment. But I also recognize that it is rare and that it's becoming even more rare as I get older. So I certainly don't want to be this cliche idea of a woman who is alone and old and da 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 and all this like fear frequency that gets pumped out on the internet and can push you into a place where you're kind of doing all the wrong things for all the wrong reasons. I think life is what you make it and how you cultivate your day-to-day experience and what it is that you connect to, what brings meaning into your world. I feel that no one is going to love you as much as you love yourself. Not from an egotistical point of like, oh, I love myself, I'm so pretty, and I have all these shiny things. Like, no, like really going inwards and peeling through the layers of all of the mistakes that you've ever made in your life and all of the dark moments that you've ever had, and being able to really hold yourself in that and love yourself anyways, and forgive yourself anyways, and trust yourself anyways. No one else is going to be able to do that as well and as deeply and as impactfully as you are able to do that for yourself. And when you have that type of relationship with yourself, you are just creating meaning. You're creating meaning in all of your relationships, in all of your connections, in the art that you create, in the way that you move through the world, in the job that you're doing, in the world and the life that you are cultivating. And for me, that is very fulfilling. Like that is so fulfilling. And so anyone that comes into this frequency where we are connecting and now we're in a place of romance or intimacy or love, whatever it is, like that is just adding to what it is that I've already created in my life. I'm not looking for someone or something to be the thing that brings me the fulfillment that I'm lacking, because I'm not lacking any type of fulfillment. I'm really at peace with where I am, with what I'm creating, with the beings that are here with me in the time that they're with me. And that to me is a huge blessing. Spiritual practices, yoga, meditation, all of this can help you to orient yourself into your life so that you are cultivating a life with meaning. And then what do you want? You want to meet that other person that is also cultivating a life with meaning, with great compassion and humanity. And then you're two humans coming together. You're not two robots with like filters and like this projection of being like, I'm an 8, like whatever that is. Like, no, 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 no. I want to be with somebody who is lived, is cultivating, is, putting their hands in the dirt of their own shadow and working it out. I know it's a crazy and wild world out there. I wish you so much love and so much peace on your quest for love, on your quest for romance, but above all, create meaning in your life. If you can create meaning, you're going to meet other people that are also creating meaning, and that is going to be truly spectacular. Wishing you so much love and many, many blessings.